We're going to be starting our Instagram Live. We're going to be starting our Instagram Live in a couple of minutes with Andrea Gyorody of the Allen Memorial Art Museum at Oberlin. So we're just waiting for Andrea to come on. Hi, everybody. Hi, Helen. Hi, Karen. Eva's sister, Helen Sharash, has just joined us. Karen Shapiro, the producer of the Eva Hesse film. Oh, lots of people coming on. Oh, good to see everybody. All right, so let's see if we're going to add in Andrea right now. And excuse me while I figure out how to add in Andrea. Here, plus. And where is... There are so many people who are showing up at the bottom here in terms of adding. I'm trying to look for you, Andrea, but everything is showing up as little icons. Let's see. Can people hear me? Put a thumbs up if you can hear. Add Allen Art Museum. Go live with Allen Art Museum. I think we're going to do that. Waiting for Allen Art Museum. All right. Connecting to Andrea. And there she is.
We did it.
All right. Wonderful. So joining us right now, Andrea, get your whole face in there. Super.
I'm working on it.
Andrea Gyorody is the Ellen Johnson Curator at the Allen Memorial Art Center, Allen Memorial Art Museum, and Oberlin, Ohio, part of the Oberlin College group. And thrilled to have Andrea in conversation today, because I'll tell you that my journey to be able to make the Eva Hesse film is in no small part dependent upon my experience looking through the archive, the extraordinary archive that was donated by Eva's sister Helen Charish years ago to the museum. And so it's also kind of wonderful that you are the Ellen Johnson Curator. So if you could just spend a couple of minutes letting us know, letting everyone who's here know why and how this great archive of Eva Hesse came to be at the museum.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Marcie. Hi, everyone else. That's something we get asked all the time. Why is Hesse's work and her archive at Oberlin so well represented? And the story goes back to about 1968. So Athena Taka, who was the curator of modern and contemporary art here, the very first curator of modern and contemporary art, very good friends with Ellen Johnson, who was the historian of modern art in the art department at Oberlin. Athena had, through various folks, I believe through Mel Bachner and Paul Witt, heard about Eva Hesse and was invited to her studio and was really blown away by what she saw there. And not only wanted to acquire work for the museum, which we eventually did, we were the first museum to acquire Hesse's sculpture, Laocoon, from 64-65. She also invited Eva to come to Oberlin as a visiting artist in 1968. So Eva came here for a few weeks. There was no show planned, but once Athena and Ellen had seen the drawings that Eva had brought with her, they offered her a show of sorts in the hallways of the art building. So there was a show of Eva's drawings, a very small one. And then following that, they kept in touch. We wound up acquiring Laocoon shortly after Eva died in 1970. And not long after that, in the late 70s, when Helen was deciding what to do with the estate, she had recalled the serious interest that was shown in Eva's work before she was really known much more broadly here at Oberlin. Thought that this would be an appropriate home for her archive. And then Helen has also given us, as many of you know, the bulk of what is over 300 drawings by Hesse in our collection.
And Andrea has just recently one of your more recent projects is she curated a fabulous show of Eva Hesse drawings that's been making its way around the world. It was in Wiesbaden, it was in New York. It will be back in Oberlin and being shown a little bit later than we thought because of COVID, but and there's a wonderful catalog, a book out as well. If you
Yes, I can show you if I can get my phone to stay put.
There you go. Hold it up.
It's a bazillion pounds, but here it is.
It's a tome. It's enormous. And beautifully done.
It is edited by Barry Rosen, very lovingly, and with a lot of help from the Hauser and Wirth staff. And it is the first ever volume that shows all of Hesse's drawings in the Oberlin collection, and is by me and by the other curators who worked on the traveling drawing show.
That's so wonderful, and it's great. So that publication is available now. Eva Hesse's diaries,
yes,
which are also in the collection at Oberlin, are being reprinted quite soon if they haven't already been.
Yeah.
And just to sort of bring this back around, my connection to that Oberlin archive came, wow, it's probably a dozen years ago when I got a travel grant. I saw Eva's work in reproduction when I was in graduate school, became absolutely fascinated with it. That led me to read Lucy Lepard's book, which again, those of you who want to go a deeper dive into Hesse's life, Lucy Lepard's book, although not really a true biography, is a really wonderful view of Hesse's work and also some of her life. She quoted from some of the unpublished journals in that book.
Yeah.
And that's what sent me. Reading those quotes, I was like, whoa, who's this person behind the artwork? And that sent me to Oberlin many years ago, and sat in the library there, and every day I was there for a week, and they'd bring me big boxes and white gloves, and I got to read the journals, which at that point had not even been digitized and put online. Right. This is really kind of pre-internet days, and really fell for that human being and wanted to know more about her. 10 years later, we get to do this film with the great support of Oberlin and of the estate and of Helen and Barry and all the people who are in Hauser Wirth. And we were able to create this documentary, which we want to kind of celebrate Eva. This is right now, today is the 50th anniversary of Eva's passing away. And as part of that, we're having this conversation. And also there will be starting this morning and going through Sunday night, there's a 72-hour free stream of the full film through the Hauser Wirth Dispatches online magazine. So you can either go to the Eva Hesse Doc Facebook page or our website, and you'll be able to go through that, or go straight to Hauser Wirth Dispatches and click on the Films tab. And you'll be able to click through and watch the film if you haven't seen it. Let's see. So we're talking today not only about the archive, but also about, let's talk a little bit about this legacy, since it has been 50 years since she made any new work, 50 years since she passed. And in your viewpoint, as a curator of modern art, what do you see these days as being Eva's vibrancy or legacy in terms of the current conversation in contemporary art?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there are lots of ways to look at that. I think the biggest way in which her work has resonated, and I mean, there's literally no artist to whom I have mentioned this project, the recent drawings exhibition, or the fact that I am now probably about 100 feet from her archive, who doesn't go, oh my God, and completely lose their minds about Eva Hesse. Like, there's not a single artist in any medium of any nationality, they all just completely go bananas. So there's no exaggeration, I think, in saying that she's had a monumental impact on other artists. And I think her really fearless experimentation with materials has been the biggest way in which I've seen that impact on generations following her. Obviously she had a very short career as a sculptor. It was really only about 4.5 years where she was making sculpture. And that has been probably the biggest influence on a younger generation of artists, thinking about sculpture and the ways in which it relates to the body in particular, the way that her work was a commentary or a rebuke against the kind of cold, hard masculinity of minimalism in many ways, I think resonates with people still. The work, is really, it's so materially nuanced and so much, there's so much touch involved in the work, I think, in the way that they were made and in the imperfection that she was after. And, the way that she didn't want a work like Repetition 19, she didn't want it to look like these perfect cold cylinders. She wanted it to be kind of perfectly wonky. And that was the effect that she was after. And I think there's something very human about that, about wanting these works to actually be flesh-like in some way. And we've certainly seen that that's the case in ways that she knew and didn't know in terms of how the work has aged since her death. And, the ways in which the latex works, et cetera, have really, taken a beating and have actually had a life cycle in a way that other works of art, we don't get to see that to quite the same extent.
It was very interesting to talk, going back to your mentioning of Repetition 19. It was a very interesting conversation we had with Doug Johns, who was kind of Hesse's assistant and technical assistant at that time, and who had originally made some of that work to show her some examples, and that was her intense feedback, which is like, too perfect, needs to have the hand. And then she remade the whole thing on her own in paper mache, and then which she was able to use to cast the work that we know, which is now the Museum of Modern Art.
Right, and that work is Repetition 19-3, as astute viewers will know, because it was really the third attempt to get that project right. And the first two attempts, we have photos in the archive, and you can tell, they're really beautifully, impeccably made fiberglass cylinders, but that's not what she wanted. And the work, I don't think it would have had the same resonance so many years after had it looked like that.
That has a lot of resonance for me personally. When I was in graduate school for fine art, and that was in the late 80s, and it was a time where a lot of the major conversation about contemporary art had to do with sort of an ironic distance, and work which was commenting a lot on other work, which I found intellectually interesting. It didn't touch me. That wasn't the reason that I wanted to make art. And I heard about Hesse first through through a seminar in alternate art history. So it was taking a look at art history, but not through the kind of mainstream of, Cubism, et cetera, expressionism, minimalism. It was kind of looking through another direction. Also, first place where I saw Hilma Klint's work was in that seminar. Wow. And seeing Hesse's work, that connection between this there was a rigorous thoughtfulness in terms of the repetition, in terms of, but there was also this kind of wacky, chaotic, chance-based piece of it. And it was the balance between those two things that, for me, really hit a deep chord. And still to this day, still after spending all this time with the work, and also with her journals and her writing.
Yeah. Well, and I think in her writing, one of the things that comes through, and even in the last interview that she gave, the only one that we have recorded, the emphasis on absurdity in her work is from the get-go, from her days as a student, really, and takes kind of its fullest form in her sculptures in a work like, I was at the Art Institute of Chicago in February, just before everything closed, and seeing Hang Up again, you turn the corner and you see this work that maybe now, knowing what we know, it doesn't look so crazy as it would have when it debuted, but it really is, just this absurdity of essentially a huge empty frame with this giant, for those of you who have seen it, you'll know, with this giant, tense kind of rope that comes out into your space. and you don't quite know what to do with it or where to place your body in relation to it. And it creates a kind of productive discomfort, I think, that she really thrived on in her sculptural and her relief work.
Oh, absolutely. And having seen that piece on film and in reproduction for so long, it did not prepare me for coming in contact with the real thing in Chicago a few years ago, and coming into the room and just getting hit with the power of it and the absurdity of it. Those of you who haven't seen it in person, it's when everything opens up again, definitely worth the visit to Chicago Art Institute to experience that in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And some folks have asked in the comments about where they can read Eva's diaries, and they have been published in full, edited by Barry Rosen, who manages her estate, and they have just been reprinted by Hauser and Wirth. So if you go to the Gallery Hauser and Wirth's website, you will find through Hauser and Wirth Publishers that you can purchase a copy of the diaries.
That is true. And I want to mention on the extraordinary Eva Hesse Archive website that you host,
yes,
that they're available digitally,
yes,
in the original. So
yes,
to be able to, the Hauser and Wirth publication is fabulous. It's all been transcribed.
yes,
Seeing the originals is absolutely wonderful as well, because there's also lots of sketches in there, and arrows and notes, and the diaries kind of take you through the beginning of 1967. But when it's kind of interesting, because when she sort of wound down daily diary entries, prose entries, she really bumped up these day books. Her notebooks of calendars, daily calendars, which are also in your collection, which the second half. So in the film, for those of you who haven't seen it, all of the narration are all Hesse's words. I didn't write anything. I just really edited down 1,200 pages to the 40 pages of the script that we had. And those the readings are voiced by the actress Selma Blair, and also hats off to our extraordinary editor Azine Samari for being able to take Hesse's own words and kind of bring us through her life in that way, that 10 years of the life that we look at. But in particular, from mid-1967 to her death, it's almost all pulled from those
the date books,
those extraordinary date books. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're really amazing, because you get to see like what did a day in her life look like, or what did she think was important about recording in those days. They're really revealing. And I know other folks have said in the comments that they're not seeing the diaries on the Hauser and Wirth website just yet. So wait on the reprint. I'm sure it got delayed because of everything we're experiencing. But if you go to the Allen Memorial Art Museum website, we're actually getting a brand new website that will look like it was made of this century later this summer. So for now, though, you can deal with the interface if you're motivated enough. And if you go to our collections and you search for Eva Hesse Archive, the more than 1,000 objects in the archive will pop up. They've all been digitized, and you can read everything and look at all of it there. Yeah, and you can download quite a bit as well. At least you used to be able to. Yeah, you can. Yes. You can. Yeah, exactly. So the archive is just so extraordinary. I want to talk a little bit about that voice of Hesse's, because that's the other thing that I think, yes, in terms of artistic practice, people have been really inspired throughout the decades by her sense of play, by the use of industrial materials in new ways. But there is also, I think, a piece of the conversation, the ongoing conversation, that has to do with the fact that Hesse left behind 1,200 pages of writing. Yeah. And that we have gotten to know this young artist and I think she was extraordinarily revealing in what she put in these diaries. And also we feel, pretty confident that she meant for these diaries to continue. Yeah. After she was gone, because
again, from talking to Helen and other friends of hers, she knew that she might be leaving the earth pretty early. And she went through her whole loft and got rid of a lot of stuff that she didn't want connected to her legacy, but left those journals intact. And they do, they're raw. They're emotionally raw. They're intellectually fierce in terms of really the challenge that she went through to be able to become the artist that she wanted to become. And I know for me, I don't think that I, could have made, we certainly could have made the film that we made. And certainly I don't know if I would have, seen the possibility of moving forward with telling her story without those, her own words having been left behind.
Absolutely. I mean, I like many other people who have worked on Hesse as an art historian or as a curator, I never had the pleasure of meeting her. So, I have only, of course, I know her sister Helen, who's been so generous with her time and her own remembrances. She came here to help me and Barry make the final selection of drawings for the traveling show.
Oh,
and, so I've known people who have known her, but the fullest way to understand who she was is through her writing and through the work. And I think there's always, to me, a kind of tension between the unfiltered insecurity that one finds in her diaries and the absolutely explosively, mind-blowingly insane quality of the work, where you're thinking, get a grip. The work you're producing is amazing. You don't need to worry about all these men in your life. You're producing something absolutely incredible that's going to outlast you by many, many generations. And, I think it's we often have Oberlin students who want to look through the archive. And some of them spend an entire winter term, the whole month of January, like digging through the entire archive, reading the diaries in their original form. And I think there's something that they all really relate to in these really, very honest words written by a woman close to age and to them, who is trying to figure out who she is and how to make her way in the world as an artist.
And that kind of leads me into kind of the next topic that I wanted to broach with you, which has to do with later on in her life. Yes, the diaries is the artist becoming. And then you get these letters and also the date books, which is the artist in her last couple of years taking on what it is to be an artist and to be continually creative in the face of your own mortality, which for the last 15 months of her life, in which she made arguably some of her, really her greatest work, the work that she's so known for, work like Right After, which is filled with kind of these, drippy, gravity-pulled latex lines. And all the way through 7 Poles, which she designed while in her hospital bed. What do you think, Andrea, in terms of, what that last, almost year and a half of her life, what it imparted to her work?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think I was talking with Barry about this earlier, and I think that, to some extent, like anybody who would be 33 or 34 years old facing their own mortality, I think there's probably a level of denial in some ways, right? Just the idea that you wouldn't be here anymore to be doing what you're doing, whether you're in your hospital bed or not, has to be a kind of, there's a dissonance there, right? So I don't want to attribute too much to the fact that she was dying or sick to that work, because I think it connects so beautifully to the work that came before it in terms of her experimentation with materials and with forms themselves that are absurd, that are pathetic, that, really challenge the body in space to kind of figure out what to do with them, that, could or could not, I think, relate to issues of mortality. And I think, sometimes I worry that, especially with somebody like Hesse, it's impossible to not look back and say, wow, she was in the last year of her life when she was making XYZ. but I also want to resist a little bit the urge to pathologize artists who are dealing with suffering, and women artists in particular deal with this all the time in terms of their work, whether the work was made the year that they had a child or the year that, you know, whatever happened. So part of me wants to resist that narrative a little bit and preserve the life of the work, if that makes sense, and to think about, you know, the vibrancy of that work apart from the fact that we know that she dies soon thereafter. But it's, you know, it's unmistakable, obviously, that something that you're making with your hands, or that you're designing for somebody else to make with their hands while you're in your hospital bed. I mean, it's hard to overlook that reality, right?
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit and say it's not mutually exclusive.
Sure.
And one of the things that I noticed, and you know, you tell me if you know, you think this is on track, is that from right after on, the grid pretty much disappeared. You know, you've got those wonderful, you know, drawings that she did up in Woodstock that have kind of loose boxes in them.
Yeah.
But the grid that she played off of in terms of being able to sort of, you know, kind of take minimalism and kind of do something else with it, like the irregular. The name of the piece is jumping out at me, but the piece that she did in eccentric abstraction.
Metronymic irregularity.
Yes, that one. Where you've got this real grid, and then you've got all of the wires that are kind of, you know, pushing against it. Once you get to right out, you get right after, you get rope piece, you get, you know, pieces which the grid, you know.
Yeah. I think
is so that's the biggest shift that I see.
Yeah, I think to some extent, I mean, I don't know how much I would attribute this to the condition of her own body, but I do think in moving away from the grid, she's letting go a little bit of the need for the work to be so specifically responsive to minimalism, right? Yeah. I mean, she's saying, like, okay, I don't need to have the grid become messy. We just don't need the grid at all. We can move towards something like rope piece, which of course, you know, relates beautifully to a work like Duchamp's, you know, 1,000 Miles of String, something that, you know, engulfs space in a particular way. So it too has its precedence, but outside of the very, you know, pressing framework of minimalism in New York at the time that she was making art.
I think that, yeah, I mean, I think it's important to, especially as an art historian, to keep, with Hesse, it's kind of easy to meld these things together because of the writing.
Yeah.
But also to be able to just say, okay, put all that aside, the work completely stands on its own in terms of that conversation of contemporary art. When we find ourselves now, here we are kind of all kind of locked away. Yeah. And yeah, we're dealing with maybe perhaps not our own mortality, but artists are dealing with being in a world right now where, you know, life has become less sure. That a lot of these things have become less sure. Are you seeing any response to that you find is interesting and is coming out of this kind of forced hermitage?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm thinking about now, just as you said that so perfectly, is that I've actually seen a number of artists who I follow on social media turning to drawing. And it makes sense because a lot of them can't get to their studios, or they can't get the materials they need to make the work they were making before, whatever medium it was in. And a lot of people are drawing in new ways. And the Woodstock drawings that you mentioned, that Eva did towards the very end of her life, there's actually, for those of you who haven't read it, there's a beautiful essay. It's my favorite piece of writing on Eva of late, by Gioia Timpanelli, by her friend, who was with her in Woodstock, that's in our Oberlin catalog, that I'm really, really grateful is there. Gioia is a beautiful writer, but writing about, you know, the practice of just sitting there and drawing every day and having a routine where they would make lunch together, they would chat, and then they would each kind of go to their separate workspaces and just work all day. And for artists right now who have the privilege of being able to do the work at home, other people don't. I have a toddler, so I completely understand folks for whom this forced hermitage is actually really suffocating and very difficult to operate in. as opposed to giving you a kind of freedom. It sucks a lot of your time away. But for some people, I think, this is a moment where something like a very intimate practice like drawing makes sense. And I'm really curious to see what comes out of this moment in that sense, but also in the sense of, artists right now are home and they're not going out to shows, they're not going to openings, they're probably not in spaces with works that are influencing them in the same way as they do in real life. Obviously, there's lots of that on social media and like what we're doing right now. But I'm curious to see what this period of a break from influence might mean for some artists, and what, being alone with yourself and your own work might produce.
Well, what an interesting observation, especially in terms of what happened to Eva Hesse in, 1964, 65, where she did just that. She left New York, went to Germany with her husband, cut herself off with the support and the encouragement of Sol LeWitt, cut herself off from that whole conversation and kind of did her own kind of retreat, and came back. She went there a painter, came back working in 3 dimensions with those kind of really interesting works that were half paintings, half sculptures, and then finally sculptures. So
well, another, what's interesting about that is that one of the things that she did when she was in Germany was she spent a lot of time playing with the kids of the the owner of the factory who had put them up. And there's at least one really wonderful essay about the games that she played with those kids and the drawings that they made together, and how we can see the influence of those drawings on her work. So even thinking now about, artists who are home with their kids and having to do things that they wouldn't normally do, that we might see the impact of that. And I think that could be really interesting. And someone's asking about the name of the essay that Joya wrote. And I actually have the catalog in front of me. It's simply called Woodstock Paintings by Joya Timpanelli. And I don't think that it's been put online digitally, but you can seek it out in the Eva Hesse Oberlin catalog, which is on sale through Hauser and Wirth. And I know at least our library has a copy, so you might check your library as well if they're open.
All right, that sounds great. Well, we're getting towards the end of our 30 minutes. This has been a fabulous conversation. Really thank you for participating. Also, I wanted to mention that, again, that the full film is being streamed through the Hauser Wirth Dispatches Online magazine. Go to the tab that says film. Also, if you would like, even a deeper dive, the DVD of the film is available in English and in German. And there's about a half an hour of additional material that's not in the film on the DVD, which are other, interviews that we didn't have the time or the place to actually put in the film. So, and it's, something that you can just it's an object. And I think it's about $20 or something.
Exactly.
You can find that through our website, and also through Kino Lorber, who does the distribution for the DVDs in the States. Anything else before we go, Andrea?
I'll just say in response to a few of the comments that I will on the Allen Art Museum Instagram in our stories, I'll go ahead and throw up some images of things that we've talked about, and photos of the essays and the books that we've referenced, so that if you want to find them, you can. They'll be on our stories probably later today when I have a minute to do that. And great. I think you are going to save this video and share it, because others have asked.
I am going to make every attempt to save it to Instagram TV, IGTV. I'm also going to download it. Oh, and one thing I did forget is that conversation with Cindy Nemser that you mentioned earlier in our conversation, the 1970 interview, it's now in the collection of the Getty, and has most recently been put online. I think Helen Molesworth, the curator Helen Molesworth, is doing some commentary. So if you go to the Getty site, if you search for Getty Eva Hesse interview, you'll be able to hear her speaking.
Exactly. And there's
this part or all that conversation. It's a long conversation.
For anyone who's interested, Helen Molesworth, who was a curator in California, she has put together a really great podcast series with the papers of Cindy Nemser and one other person who I'm totally blanking on at the moment. But they have all of this archival audio footage that they are making available through this podcast. And
Yeah,
Helen invites other historians on to talk about the legacy of these artists now many years past the date of those interviews. And that's a Getty podcast that you can find through any podcast app.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And enjoy. Stay safe.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good Friday. Okay. End.